The reason we're here today, and thank you all for coming, before the holiday break for our school system, we addressed as a county, as a police department, numerous rumors of violence and potential violence in our schools after the unfortunate tragedies in Connecticut. Our colleagues throughout the nation have been addressing these rumors of violence and fears. And at that time, one of the things that we pointed out as a police department, as a county government, was that the fear of violence and the fear of incidents happening in the schools many times is even greater than the likelihood of the actual event. So the reason we're here today, we did have an incident that happened in North County High School where no one was hurt. There were no actual threats against students, but the rumors and the potential for people to hear different accounts of what actually happened and not get the accounts straight from us. We want to be transparent. We want to be completely open to the degree that we legally can be, and we want everyone to get the story from us. So with that, again, my name is Lieutenant Batten, B-A-T-T-E-N. I am the commander of the school safety section for the Anne Arundel County Police Department. February 4th, at approximately 1:45 in the afternoon, shortly before high schools were set to dismiss, a custodial employee of North County High School, which is located in Glen Burnie, noticed something that was suspicious. It was obvious that someone was rattling an exterior door and the handle was moving and it was making a noise. And that person or persons was trying other doors as well. Fortunately, through the training that these employees have had, they knew that that was suspicious, and they called for the school resource officer over the school-based radio to come and investigate. The SRO assigned to the school immediately went outside when hearing that there was someone outside trying to get into the school in an area that would normally not be used for visitors. But it's a large school. It's a large school, and going out there on foot, not knowing exactly where the person, he knew where the person had started, but the person was obviously moving around to other locations. So as he went outside on foot to check for this person to see what they were doing, he got word from over the radio that a male who was unknown to the staff of the school had apparently made entry into the building near the loading dock area at the rear of the school. In doing so, what we later found out was as another employee was making entry into that loading dock door area, apparently the male who came in waited until the door was nearly closed and was able to quickly approach the door before it was completely secured and was able to get inside the school. Again, because of the training that the police department has provided the school-based employees, and because they know how serious we take these kind of events, a whole host of school employees were already looking for the intruder inside the building to make sure that nobody had actually gotten in. And as it happens, they encountered the person very, very shortly after he got into the building. They challenged his reasons for being there, and he was cooperative, and they escorted him to the office. The SRO met everyone at the office a very short time later, literally within minutes, before everyone was in the office. Everyone good so far? Clear? The SRO began his investigation. He asked the guy why he was there. And during that conversation, the male did not make any threats towards any of the school staff, didn't say that he wanted to hurt himself, didn't say he wanted to hurt others. But his manner and his demeanor just seemed odd. And the SRO checked this individual for weapons and found none, found no illegal contraband on him whatsoever. But in the person's account for why he was there, a 25-year-old male, he was later identified as Justin Matthew Beaumont from Glen Burnie. Mr. Beaumont indicated that he was a former student at the school. And in some of his accounts for while he was at the school, he indicated that he had been bullied at a period of time at the school when he attended in approximately 2001 to 2002, in that time frame, many years ago. And he made some inquiries about the school's security procedures, and he talked very briefly about his own military experience. There were no other criminal violations noted in him being there other than a misdemeanor trespassing offense. And the SRO took it one step further to check the suspect's car for potential weapons, drugs, other contraband, and none were found. One thing that was concerning, however, was in the back seat of the vehicle, there was a soft holster for a handgun, among other disordered belongings in the car. And the suspect's account for why that holster might be there was plausible. There was no ammunition found. There was no other weapons found. But it just was very, very odd. Because there was nothing else criminal that was going on at the time, Mr. Beaumont was charged with trespassing on posted property, and he was later released. But basically, in light of everything that's been going on throughout our country and all the experiences that we've seen from our colleagues throughout the nation, I became aware of this incident and immediately contacted Colonel Tolliver to brief him on what had transpired. Colonel Tolliver, quite frankly, is a leader in innovative and very aggressive, diligent investigation of school-based issues. Giving credit where it's due, he was the catalyst behind our school-based application, our smartphone application, that garnered national attention and attention throughout now the world. We're very fortunate that Colonel Tolliver immediately saw the potential seriousness of what looked like, on its surface, a trespassing event and what could have been something else. And he directed all the police department's resources to immediately investigate the circumstances before Mr. Beaumont arrived at the school. Northern District detectives later learned in their investigation that Mr. Beaumont's the lawfully registered owner of several firearms, rifle, an Uzi assault weapon, and multiple handguns. Based on the totality of the circumstances and under provisions provided in the mental health education article, our detectives applied for and received a search and seizure warrant for Mr. Beaumont's home and the interior of his vehicle. The intention of this was to hold Mr. Beaumont's firearms, if necessary, for safekeeping, pending evaluation by health professionals. Detectives served that warrant, search and seizure warrant, on February 5th and recovered the AK-47 rifle under Mr. Beaumont's bed. The weapon was loaded with a 30-round magazine. An Uzi was also found under his bed that was not loaded. 2 unloaded 8mm bolt-action rifles were found in a case under the bed, as was an unloaded Jennings .22 caliber handgun that was found in a box under the bed. A loaded Kel-Tec 380 handgun equipped with a laser sight was found between the bed's mattresses. A 9mm barrel adapted for a silencer along with the silencer was found, and there was numerous rounds of ammunition and ammunition magazines that were additionally recovered and held for safekeeping. What we learned from our partners and our school officials was Mr. Beaumont attended North County High School for only 2 months in 2012 before transferring to a different school. He was there for only a short period of time. Currently, he's undergoing medical treatment. At this time, all of the materials, all of the weapons, all of the things that we're holding for safekeeping appear to be lawfully owned, legally possessed. Before I take any questions and defer to my colleagues with the school system, I want to tell you quite frankly, every incident that happens, there are lessons to be learned. There are improvements to be made. And with notable exception of Mr. Beaumont being able to enter the building before the door was properly pulled closed, the activation of school officials to be looking for a person all the way down to the custodial staff member saying, we need the SRO because we believe somebody is trying to get in our building and they shouldn't be. That single action put a lot of resources in play that the person was confronted, and the security procedures that should have been in place after that were enacted. This investigation shows us the alarming possibilities that can happen. No students were threatened, no staff members were injured. Everything that happened here other than the misdemeanor trespassing offense was legal. But we take it seriously. We come to you in candor and in complete openness to tell you that we continue to drill, we continue to train, and we continue to emphasize school safety. And we want our citizens to know what the possibilities are. Just because it's in another country or a different state, just because it's not been here, doesn't mean that we don't prepare for it to be here. And we don't want anyone to hear it from anyone but us as to what happened on this day, and that we're going to continue to drill, we're going to continue to get better, and we're going to continue to improve. So before I take any questions, before the questions in general, I'd like to turn it over to
Batten. I just want to say three things. Number one, I want to emphasize that how important it is that we be as transparent as we can in incidents like this. We don't want rumor, innuendo to dictate what people might think and any conclusions they may draw. It's vitally important that we deal with the facts, and I applaud the police department for stepping out front, and I insisted that we do this as soon as we could to put to rest any rumor, innuendo that may have been generated by leaks, rumors flying around about this. Number two, I think it's a great demonstration of the cooperation that we have between Annapolis County government and the Board of Education. They work closely. They work closely on a daily basis with the school resource officers, and believe it or not, we work closely outside of the police department. We work closely from my former home, the budget office and the finance office. From time to time, we've had our differences, but we work closely, and there is good communication. Sometimes it might be elevated, but there is good communication. And third, I want to take my hat off to the men and women of the Annapolis County Police Department. This is good, hard police work on their part, and they took a little bit of evidence and applied their good senses as police officers and pursued it. And I think that who knows what might have happened, who knows if anything would have happened. But I think it's good demonstration of the alertness of the men and women and the leadership of the Annapolis County Police Department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Mr. Hammond said, I'm Dr. Kevin Maxwell, MAXWLL, Superintendent of Schools, Annapolis County. I have a few people with me here today. Bob Mosier, my Public Information Officer, is here. Bill Heiser, the Principal of North County High School, is here. And I have two board members, President Andrew Pruski and board member Solon Webb are here with me as well this afternoon. Just a couple points, and then we'll take a few questions. First and foremost, as Mr. Hammond said, we have a wonderful working relationship with the departments of county government and the county leadership. We have worked diligently with our school resource officer program. Almost all the officers that you see in this room, I've been out walking school hallways with myself, along with members of my team. We do drill together, we drill independently, and we work hard to make sure that we're ready for whatever scenarios may come our way. Our schools do monthly drills of different types on a regular basis, and we try very hard to make sure that we're doing the right work to make sure that our schools are safe at all times. You've heard Lieutenant Batten talk about the locked doors. We work very hard to make sure our schools are secured at all time after entry in the morning, and we have people on duty to monitor that entry in the morning as well. And that said, there is always the possibility for human error or people to take advantage of opportunities, as in the case of somebody grabbing a door just before it closes and gaining entry. The fact that we had already had employees alert the police department and other school administrators to the fact that someone was trying to gain entry actually made it very quick in terms of identifying where the individual was and getting him to the office. I want to give credit as well to Officer Pesh, the school resource officer at North County High School. I've known him for 7 years now. He's a great officer, and it was his conversation and his legwork that got this whole thing underway. and allowed the police to get a search warrant and make sure that further concern regarding this individual in our school system is not going to be a problem for us. I think with that, I'd just like to correct one easily made misstatement. The gentleman attended North County for 2 months in 2002, not 2012. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware. As a 25-year-old, he wasn't here last year in our school system. So it's easily done. I've done that many times myself, but just for accuracy, he was there for 2 months 10 years ago. So I think with that, unless there's other points, we will. Questions? Lieutenant Batten?
Questions?
Do you bona fide threat to the students at North County High School?
Well, I don't want to speculate on what his underlying motive was. All we had to work with was the evidence that we had at hand, but we didn't want to leave it just at surface level. And we wanted to make sure, to the degree that we legally could, what he was doing before he got there. And many times that might be a mistake for other places or other investigations where you just leave it at the surface level and don't check and don't see if there's more going on. So again, without speculating what he intended to do or what he was there to do or what his future plans may be, I think this is a great example of taking what ordinarily might be considered a minor incident and looking at it very carefully all the way through, just to make sure.
And if I could add to that, you know, in terms of was he a threat, at that moment in time, I just want to underscore there are absolutely no weapons on our school property. He had no weapons in his possession at the time he was on our school property. He made no threats to anybody while he was there. You can, you know, everybody can speculate, and that's not our job to do, but, you know, the question of, you know, why do you need the guns that he had and what are they for and what was meant by the fact that he was even there, you know, those are the things that, again, we're not going to speculate on, but at the moment that he was at school, there was no threat to anybody made, and there were no weapons on school property at any time.
So this was really a precautionary type of police action?
Absolutely. It was I would call it a proactive and supportive. That's the relationship that we have. When we're concerned about things, we very readily call our police department. If there's SROs in the school, they're our first point of contact. But you know, Chief Tolliver and I talk on the phone from time to time. We've talked a couple times today. Lieutenant Batten and I have had many conversations. You know, we work very, very closely together. We have a great working relationship. They're an award-winning SRO program in the United States, and we're very proud to be working with them.
Does he have any priors?
If I could just, before I'll get to that, I would say that it was a thorough investigation. Not even, there was a crime that was committed. He was trespassing. He had no business being there. It's incumbent upon us as police to try to determine why. And even when we can't determine on the surface level why, not to, in this day and age, with everything that's going on in our country with school safety, let's take it one step further. Let's really look into this a little more carefully. It may have been nothing. It could have been a misguided parent or a misguided brother or sister, or uncle, or anything else. But once the officer came into contact, the school staff came into contact with him, his manner, his demeanor, his everything else that he was demonstrating, his account for being at the school, those things, it's not so much proactive. It is taking the events that are as they're transpiring and being very thorough in your investigation.
Is this?
We live in an age that will probably never be the same again after Connecticut. We thought, 9/11 was a harbinger of a different era, and it was. And post-Connecticut, we have got to recognize as an agency, as a nation, as a state, that our school children, we have to take these kind of precautionary, thorough investigative steps to make sure that we do everything we can to keep them safe.
What prompted the search warrant?
I'm going to go as far as priors go. The Annapolis County Police Department has had one prior occasion with the young man, but I can't speak to those records at this point.
Was he arrested or just?
I regret that I can't go into further because of their legal considerations that I can't.
Did he give any clear answer for why he was at the school?
No.
No.
Based on your investigation and your conversation with him, how confident are you that he won't be back?
He is undergoing treatment at the moment. He is going to be served with, obviously, no trespassing and banning notices. But let's face it, quite frankly, the school properties posted no trespassing for anybody who wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. So we're as confident with him not being back as anybody else, but we know who we're looking for. We are aware of him, and it's not like we're going to not keep him on our radar as someone to be concerned about should he arrive again.
And you said that he's undergoing medical treatment. Can you answer whether or not that's for mental illness?
I can't say.
And what's the possibility he could get his guns back?
Can't speculate on that based on medical treatment. If he is lawfully eligible to possess the weapons, there is a process that he must go through to reacquire those weapons. If he was legally able to obtain them in the first place, so if he's legally able to at the time he applies for them back, then that process will take its course. But I can't speculate whether or not he will be.
Are there any other
Legally
charges
able to
pending?
have those guns means he had a background check, do we know?
Those guns, the guns that I spoke of, is the AK-47, the Uzi, those were all legally, lawfully registered. He purchased them legally, he owned them legally, he was in possession of them. None of the weapons that we have recovered and we're holding for safekeeping are illegal to own and purchase. Everything about that he had done legally.
What prompted the search warrant of his home?
Search warrant of his home is predicated on the mental health aspect that allows for law enforcement who suspect that someone may be a danger to themselves or potentially others to hold them for safekeeping until such time that that person can be evaluated by medical professionals.
Are there any other charges pending?
I'm going to refer to the Deputy State's Attorney at the moment for some.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Fleckstein, F-L-E-C-K, excuse me, E-N-S-T-E-I-N, Deputy State's Attorney here for Arundel County. There have been some additional actions in court that Lieutenant Batten and Superintendent Maxwell may not have been aware about that have just been going on this afternoon. So if there's questions about those, I certainly can give some updated information on that and what the status is. I think there was a question about medical treatment. He has been, the police did take him for an emergency evaluation, emergency mental health evaluation. I think that is certainly information that we're allowed to give out at this time. As I understand it, he's at Shepherd Pratt currently. Our office, in conjunction with the police department, was able to get him, we filed a motion in the district court this morning after the information was received from the police department about this incident. We filed to have the bond revoked and to have Mr. Beaumont have that reviewed by a judge, the facts and circumstances of this case reviewed by a judge, in the hopes that we could get him held so that there could be further mental health evaluation and to try to place him on what we call our emergency evaluation review docket. We call it a mental health docket, which we have in the district court. Since that motion has been filed, and it was filed in our district court, I'm told that it was ruled on. Anne Arundel County District Court judge did agree to revoke Mr. Beaumont's bond. That will allow the police, when he is done at Shepherd Pratt, he can be taken to the detention center. He will then be brought back before a district court judge, and then he will have the conditions of his bail reviewed frequently by a district court judge, specifically based on either the emergency evaluation or potentially further evaluation. And then we have in the district court a regular review of individuals that have a similar status relative to mental health evaluations when there are pending charges. So that's the status currently.
So at this point, we still don't know why he was at the school?
Other than what the police have been able to glean, I would say that is correct, yes.
So once he leaves the hospital, he will be in custody?
That's correct. In fact, he should be taken directly from Shepherd Pratt in police custody to the detention center and then brought back before the district court. He should not be released at this time.
Are there any other charges besides trespassing?
I'll come back to that. I'm sorry.
Are there any other charges pending besides the trespassing at this point?
At this time, there are no additional charges pending. There is additional information being reviewed by our office in the police department. There may or may not be further charges. I don't anticipate that at this time. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Did they receive a tip? I'm just trying to figure out what led them to the home. Did they receive a phone call? Did they figure out that he was in possession of weapons? What made them go to the house to look for these
Well, I think that someone used the phrase that this was very thorough police work. I would agree with that. From what I've seen, what occurred is, of course, the incident happened. Officer Page, who was the SRO at the school, I think was very astute in recognizing that something didn't seem right, took some further action. They found of course, again, there were no weapons at all at the school that were found or in his vehicle, but further information that led them to take some further investigatory steps, which included then determining that there were some firearms, I guess, that he owned, again, that they pointed out legally. And again, out of an abundance of caution, given everything that they learned about the case, I think they took a very appropriate and thorough step and led us to where we are today. I think that police work in this case was exemplary, and I think that the information that they were able to quickly provide to the state's attorney's office is a testament to the relationship that these agencies have and the way in which the police have handled this. I think it's been exemplary.
Does he have a job? Does he have a job? Is he employed?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Are you
But I
able to
don't
talk
know
about
that.
his priors? Are you able to answer the question about his prior offense, if there is one?
No, at this point, no. I don't have all of that information. He put it this way, there's nothing that would make him, there's no disqualifying prior that would prevent him from owning these firearms legally, so that probably answers your question best.
What are the penalties for these charges?
Trespass carries a 90-day maximum penalty at this point.
He referenced military experience. I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer, but based on the investigation, is he fully capable of using all of these firearms to your ability?
The information that I am aware is the same that the police have. He was a member of the National Guard. To what extent he has any training or his ability to use these weapons, I simply don't know, and I wouldn't care to speculate.
Do you know the time frame that he was a member of the National Guard?
I don't. I'm sure the police have that information.
And so the hospital is going to confer with you about his condition?
They will confer essentially with the court. They will prepare an initial evaluation. They may prepare a further evaluation at some point, but at this point, that will be reviewed by the court. They will be in communication with the police department as to when it's appropriate for the police to go and retrieve him from Shepherd Pratt, bring him to our detention center, and then bring him before the district court here in Anne Arundel County again.
Do you know whether this was a shared apartment or a residence, or did he live alone?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I'm sure the police do.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Batten, what's your first name?